Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to welcome everyone here in the room and online to the August meeting of the Housing Redevelopment Authority, HRA. Busy agenda today. We'll start off just with performance. Chairman Gabler is running a few minutes late, so I'm Chris O'Brien, Vice Chair, and I'll run things in his absence. First, are there any questions about the agenda? You all have the copy of the agenda in front of you. Any suggested changes to that, or otherwise, I'll take a motion to approve? Yeah.
Well, we do have one resolution that came to us kind of late.
Okay.
And so Bill had suggested we do add that at the end.
Great.
As resolution number 25-16.
Terrific. So noted. With that amendment, any other changes, or could I get a motion to approve?
Move to approve agenda with that inclusion.
Okay. Second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. That passes. Next, likewise, approval of the July meeting minutes. Any comments, or can we likewise have a motion to approve those?
Move to approve.
Seconded.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Now we've got an opportunity for public comment, and I know, welcome, Kristen.
Thank you. All right, I just wanted to stop by today and thank all of you for the work that you do for Cook County. I'm the new Cook County Administrator. My name is Kristen Trouble-Helbersma. This is my third week here in Cook County. I'm excited to be here. It has been a great experience so far, and I trust that it will continue to be so. So again, just wanted to stop by and introduce myself, and also let you know that I have moved into the Gunflint View and have found it just to be lovely. I'm really enjoying my time there as well. So thank you again for all you do, and thank you for offering me an opportunity to say hi today.
Thank you.
Thank you. We look forward to working with you.
Thank you.
Okay, next, we are going to move one item around in the agenda. We have a presentation about this is a joint project for the pilot efficiency, the envelope and energy grant pilot project. And Andrea is here to give us walk us through that program. Andrea?
Good afternoon. Thank you. My name is Andrea Orest. I work for Cook County Public Health. I do a lot of prevention work, but I also work in our Healthy Homes program with my coworker, Andrea Tofty, who will be here shortly. But we'll get started. So today I'm just going to share a sort of high-level overview of our envelope and energy grant pilot project. We have been working on this collaboratively with the HRA, Cook County Public Health and Human Services, CCLEP, and then the City of Grand Marais. The project history. So back in 2021, we were awarded a grant to do healthy housing assessments and mitigation. And part of the grant deliverables were to create a sort of advisory group for called the Healthy Housing Network Group. So it's different sectors of the community that get together. Right now it's quarterly, I think, to go through our meetings, the data that we collect, and then to talk about some of the most prevalent concerns that are present in the assessments. When we came to towards the end of our first grant period, we compiled all of those concerns, and what we found was that the bulk were related to envelope and energy issues. So Jason, the previous HRA director, suggested a potential pilot project with funds through the HRA. And so we formed the pilot project group, which was those entities that I already listed, and then you all fantastically approved the use of that first round of funding. In our pilot group, Andrea Tofty through Public Health does the healthy housing assessment initially, and then if the person is interested in the grant program, then she forwards them to me, or I work with the homeowner on verification of eligibility. I work through the grant agreement process, and then just sort of general assistance in figuring out the grant, the contract, as well as, you know, trying to help mitigate some of the contractor difficulties that people have. I should say finding a contractor, not difficulty with their contractor. And then I also track how much funds go in and out of the program. And then Jeff is the signatory on the grant agreement and processes the contractor payments. Tony from CCLEP reviews the bids when they come in, and then Shane Steele with the City of Grand Marais gathers the images and testimonials after a project is completed. So where we're at right now, we have 5 projects that have been fully completed. We have 4 projects with signed grant agreements. 2 of those have approved bids. And the other 2 are still looking for a contractor. When I made this PowerPoint, we had funds available for 2 additional projects, but I just reached out to 2 participants this afternoon to see if they were interested and shared the information. So if those 2 homeowners decide they're interested, then we will have expended most of our funds. There will be about $2,000 left. Our project locations vary across the county, from Schroeder all the way up to Grand Portage. And some of the homeowners use those funds for standalone projects, like just replacing 2 windows. And some of them use the funds as part of a larger project that, you know, they provide the additional funding for, such as like redoing windows and insulation, or if they are redoing their roof, they could use the grant funds towards that. Project funding sources. So our Healthy Homes grant is through the Minnesota Department of Health. No, let me try that again. Minnesota Department of Health. And so we did our first round from 2021 to 23, and then we are in the middle of our second round right now for that grant. And that grant provides Andrea to go out and do the healthy housing assessment, and then up to $750 of mitigation funds towards whatever Andrea identifies and the homeowner wants to prioritize. That program is actually available to renters also. It doesn't have to be just homeowners. And then our pilot project funds through the HRA in March of 2020. That's not right. Must be 2024. Let's say March of 2024. The HRA board allocated $15,000. And all of those, what we did was we reached out to eligible participants from the round 1 of our healthy housing assessment grant period. So people who received assessments from 2021 to 23. And so all of those funds were allocated right away from those individuals, with 3 homeowners on a wait list. Both of those are 24. In December of 2024, we were allocated another $36,302.21. So we were able to take the 3 homeowners from that original wait list and get their grant agreements in place right away, and then 3 additional agreements in place April, June, and July. And then hopefully, within the next couple weeks, we'll have the other 2 in place. Deliverables of the pilot project, we have had people use the funds for window and door replacements, roof work, siding improvement, and insulation work has been the bulk of the work that's been done with the funds. And then prior to the payment of the contractor, Shane goes out and collects images and then that testimonial. So These next few slides will just be some images of some of the projects that were completed. So we have windows, insulation, more insulation, and that outside, actually that project in the top left corner is the windows. That is what they used their funds for, but that's an example of somebody wrapping it into a larger project. And then we have some testimonials from all of the participants. Do you want me to read them? Okay, great, because that feels,
Happy.
yeah.
Generous.
Yeah, so the general overview is that without the funds, people probably would not have prioritized making those improvements or even made the improvements at all. And then, let's see. There is savings on energy bills. We always appreciate to hear that we were very responsive and helpful. Yeah, thanks for your excellent work. And acknowledgements. And the end.
Thank you very much. There are questions for Andrea?
Yeah, so is the difficulty oftentimes finding the workers to actually do these projects?
Yeah, so finding a contractor that's available to do the work is probably the most difficult. Throughout the process, we've sort of, initially when we developed the pilot project, we said that from the signed grant agreement date, you had 6 months to find a contractor and then a year to do the work, which some people, found really difficult. So we changed it to 18 months overall. You have 18 months from the signed contract to find the contractor and get the work completed, which has been helpful. I did have one recipient who was going to back out because he was like, I don't even know where to start, and he kind of just pushed it off for a little while. So I helped him with a list of contractors, and he found somebody, and then he was able to move forward.
I assume you're looking for licensed.
Yes, yep, everybody they have to be a licensed contractor, and they have to provide a bid that is reviewed and approved prior to the work beginning.
I ask because there's a lot of people out there who have either dropped their licensure and insurance, but are fully capable of doing this kind of work.
Right.
And they're available.
Yeah. Yeah. So Jason was the person who developed the grant agreement, and I'm not a lawyer, but I'm assuming because of certain liabilities that it has to be a licensed contractor.
Has there been any discussion with the Arrowhead Electric or with the Grand Marais PUC on how this might dovetail with some of their efficiency programs?
There has not directly related to this program. We have had those conversations some in the Healthy Housing Network group itself, but short answer is probably just no.
Chris has a question.
Yes.
So a question
Commissioner?
that I had related to searching for contractors, are we looking only at contractors in Cook County, or do we also expand to look to Lake County or St. Louis County when we're searching?
Yeah, so people can choose any contractor they want as long as they're licensed. One of the services was provided by, was it Home Depot? Came and did the window replacement, so it can be anywhere. We have a service resource list through the Healthy Housing Network group that has like contractors and electricians, and when people are looking for resources that we can share with them, and we go we try to include everyone in the region because sometimes Cook County doesn't have a service, like a radon mitigation service or something. And sometimes we could have contractors, but they're not available.
Well, I just asked that question thinking, for example, the Heights right now is in the process of being built, and we know that there's all kinds of contractors connected with that project. I'm wondering if maybe they would be willing to take on some of those small projects since they're already here. So
Oh.
just an idea that maybe we could share that contractor list.
Well,
with
that's
you.
interesting, yeah.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Commissioner Gamble?
Thank you. Do you know as far as the requirement for licensed contractor, do you know what informed that, and have we tested that at all?
So what informed having the requirement of a
Well, meaning-
licensed
meaning that
contractor?
What informed that decision? When they're talking about this program, whatever, that, what informs them, they say, somebody might say, for instance, they'll say, you can only use union on this. The only way we'll support it is if you union. The only way we'll support it if it's licensed, and whatever that discussion was that informed that decision. Because if it was negotiable, we could say that it's difficult up here to get contractors, and the timeline on things is, you just have to do a lot of babysitting.
Right.
So if, it would be a two-pronged thing where we would find very capable individuals that have let their license go. They wouldn't mind a bit of work, and if they meet certain requirements, it would provide income in the local community, and it would also move up the availability and the
potentially provide
timeline.
additional-
So it's like if negotiating, but normally you have to say what informed the decision initially in order to be able to qualify that.
Right, well, so I can't tell you the answer because Jason, you know the answer? All right, good.
So,
Has to do with finance, right?
yeah, well, it's in the word I'm about to say, Minnesota Housing Finance Agency.
Yep.
It's basically tailored off of their program. They have a couple of different programs out there, and this is basically tailored off of one of them, or all of them, I should say.
Right.
The licensed contractor bit, yeah, I mean, I understand what you're saying, and I would like to see local people get the jobs, right, wherever we can. And so there might be some opportunity for us to change that in the future. We can reevaluate it, right? So we just did some strategic planning as a committee, and so that's maybe something we can talk about for next time.
And I think that oftentimes when these things are introduced, they sort of have a cookie cutter mentality.
Yeah.
Meaning we do a generic overview, and so we just sort of stamp that overview, and there's a uniqueness that exists in different counties. So I think having that
Yeah.
discussion respectfully can maybe provide opportunity.
Yeah,
My understanding is that it's depending on the source of funds, it can be in the statute,
Correct.
in which case there's no wiggle room. Or if it's not in the statute, you can do it, but it limits your recourse if the work is done poorly or not at all, you know.
That's true. I mean,
So-
there'd have to be some criteria
there's some
as
risk
to
there, yeah.
the selection. But I think even when they have statute, and we've seen this, because you look at a statute and you'll see how many times it's been altered based upon new information kind of thing. I'm just saying that oftentimes we're encumbered by some of these challenges, and if we respectfully, see is there an opportunity to explore options without compromising intent.
Yep.
Yeah, I think as Jeff said, we had a sort of strategic planning session and we're moving out of the pilot phase. I mean, it's pretty clear that the program works. We just need to keep looking for more funds for it. So as we move out of the pilot phase, what do we want to change? What worked well, what didn't? And that's something that we could look at, and I would mostly rely on Jeff because Jason did all of that work. I don't lawyer things.
Well, thanks for putting that on him then.
Yeah, right? Well, he offered, so.
Yeah.
Tony, did you have something to add?
What about the possibility of contacting these contractors who were previously licensed but aren't now to see if they would get relicensed, to be able to do the work, because it sort of provides insurance that the work is going to be done, and there's no fallback on it. I mean, other than maybe a lawsuit or something, you don't want to have to do anything like that. So maybe that's some other way to approach it, try to work with the contractors, see if they can get relicensed. I'm not sure what that would take, if there are some classes or something, you know, through CCLEP, they offer builders workshop on an annual basis. You know, maybe through community ed, they could offer something to help them get relicensed.
Thank you. So I think congratulations on on a successful pilot program. It sounds like the projects were well completed. The critical issue of finding contractors was identified. We've had a good discussion about the ways to potentially address that in the next phase of the program. So congratulations and thank you for the presentation.
Yeah, thank you.
One final question,
Yes,
if I may.
sorry, Nick.
So I imagine if somebody's looking into a program like this, they already have a defined need in place. Like, you'll know if your crawl space is drafty, you know. if
Yeah,
your-
so the first step of the process is that Andrea will go to their home and do an assessment under our Healthy Homes Assessment Program. And then Andrea will identify those needs, and then outside of the mitigation funds for that program, then if they're interested, she would refer them over to me with a copy of their assessment, so we could figure out make sure they're interested and eligible, and then what they want to focus their grant funds toward.
Yeah, that makes sense. I was speaking with Jason Hale previously about this general topic where when you have finite resources, it's often difficult to decide where is the best improvement to be made, and can we be sure that we're not introducing unintended consequences. For example, spray foam insulation, wonderful at air sealing, depending on the choice of material and thickness, more or less vapor permeable, and of course a house works as a system. So sometimes with things like this, the engineer brain in me says, let's make sure that we're not creating some other problem down the road when we're doing some of this stuff. And I know Jason was very aware of that danger too.
Yep.
One thing I'd like to quickly point out, so, and maybe you both could address this. It seems to me that this program isn't available or ready a lot of places in the state. And in fact, didn't you give a presentation recently or not too long ago about this sort of topic, and a lot of people were taking an interest in it?
Yeah, so we presented at the Rural Healthcare Conference.
Rural
Health Conference. And we did a presentation on our Healthy Homes Assessment Program, which included then the offshoot of this program. And our presentation focused on how, sort of as Commissioner Gamble mentioned, a lot of things start as a cookie cutter, but we really focused on what do we need this program to look like for our county, and came up with our own assessment. And so we did all of the training and due diligence around creating the program very well intentioned for our county. And then because it was so successful, we were able to build into this pilot program. And it was very well received. People really appreciated the information we shared on the Healthy Homes Assessment project itself. And really happy to hear that we were able to build something further from, those grant funds. And I think that was a solid for when we applied for round 2 of the Healthy Homes Assessment Grant Program through MDH. Being able to show that we built something more from it was really important too. And people were impressed that we were able to collaborate so closely with the HRA and the city and CCLEP, and, all of the different organizations in the Healthy Housing Network and the community members. And, I don't know of any other programs like this, but.
So it's safe to say that you all and everybody else in this room created a model that other communities can use to also help their constituents and citizens as well. And as we look to the next round of funding that I'm committed towards finding for this program, more opportunities are still there. We haven't erased the problem. And so there might be a time when there's a waiting list until we get more funding, but we're going to continue to keep working in the community to help the folks out in this realm.
Yep.
Commissioner Gamble?
Yeah, I think it's important to acknowledge the collaborative work and the integrity of it. Because a lot of times grant monies come in, we have an expectation or a hope, and then we get those monies and we better do something, and we really haven't done the hard work to build integrity into what those dollars are intended for. So I think it's important to note that the collective efforts and the integrity that was built into this, that others learn from, is worth noting.
Yeah, and that really is what makes both projects successful,
Yeah.
is that collaboration between all of the entities that, have
Yeah.
helped,
That's great.
and word of mouth.
And with that too, there's the internal controls. We get audited each year, and so this is part of our audit to make sure that all those dollars go to the right people and are spent properly.
Good discussion. Any other comments?
Well, maybe I could.
Yeah.
I could just talk a little bit about the rural health presentation and just highlight that the title of our presentation was housing and community partnerships to overcome housing constraints or something like along the lines. I can't recall exactly, but we were highlighting, it was under the domain of community partnerships. And so we were telling the story of how the program came to be, who were the organizations that were main collaborators, and then the different things that the Healthy Homes program brought with the fund, that were beyond the funding. For example, we collaborated with the Soil and Water to bring the free well water testing, so we supported on that grant writing, and then said this will be great, and it will support the Healthy Housing program, and helped write all that. And then then after the pilot project came to be, and so on. I think the data that we collect, it can be used to tell a story, and then request evidence that why we need the funding and why it's important to support the community health. Yeah, that.
Great. Thank you, Andrea. Great. Well, thank you both very much. And to Tony as well. Let me, I want to give an introduction to the next set of resolutions that we have on the agenda, and that's, these are all related to the strategic planning process that the board went through in June and July. That was hard work done by the board, and to come up with, to revisit where the organization is. I think it was 3 years since the previous strategic plan had been put together, and so out of that came a strategic plan that's included, or a summary that's included in the agenda packet. For those of you that are online, you can access that on the website. But I wanted to highlight that there were 5 new priorities identified in the strategic plan. They include developing a plan to create new opportunities in assisted living and elder housing. Second, the creation of a local housing trust fund. Third, community meetings to promote new housing through the adoption of residential open space overlay district in Cook County, and that's the innovation that's taking place right now, led by Neva Maxwell. Promotion of high efficiency and low operating cost housing now and into the future, and finally the development of a county-wide housing plan. And so I want to, so the first resolution that we have here is related to just the adoption of the strategic planning report. That's resolution 2510, but then there are a series of resolutions after that I want to commend Jeff as being quick out of the box follow-up on that strategic plan, and just identifying specifically what we're going to do as a board to fulfill the objectives that we laid out in that strategic plan. So with that, the first resolution is resolution 25-10. Maybe Jeff will give you a second. You can maybe provide an overview and then.
Yeah. So Resolution 25-10 is basically adopting the report of the strategic planning that took place on June 18th and July 16th. And, we had a facilitator, Mary Somnus, previous board president. She did a fantastic job of keeping us on track and right on the right timing for the meeting, and so we were efficient. We talked about our priorities. We talked about the mission, the vision, all the statements that get to the heart of who we are as an organization. And everybody at the table, including Chair Gabler, were present at one point or another, and we got to the point where we are headed in the right direction, but now we're also adjusting with 5 new priorities as well. And so this resolution just basically adopts the report, and we will be talking about each individual issue that we added to the priority list next after this.
I'll move adoption of Resolution 2510.
And I second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Okay, resolution passes. Great. Jeff, why don't you, would you mind introducing 2511 and continue on from there?
Yeah, 2511 would allow us as a housing and redevelopment authority to help create what's called a local housing trust fund. Local housing trust funds used to be dedicated towards a city or a county, of which we are. Now they've added a couple of extra groups of people that can also be in a local housing trust fund. But primarily what this does is it allows us to be in a better position financially to maybe help with pre-development costs or to help with stabilizing rent in our communities in Cook County, or to help with rehabbing homes, like as what we just talked about through energy efficiencies and other mechanisms, or possibly redevelopment as we consider in the future in Cook County as well. And so a local housing trust fund has a series of steps. I believe there's 14 different steps in the process. And at the end, what we do is we create a new organization within the HRA that would kind of monitor and be governing board of this local housing trust fund. It can be made up of citizens that don't have any experience. It could be made up of board members of the HRA. It could be a combination of that or anything else. And basically what we'll do is, as soon as we create the local housing trust fund, it allows us to go out and fundraise a bit. And in 2023 at the legislature, they passed some legislation that allowed for matching grants for local housing trust funds that start. And I believe there's still some money left over. I authored the bill, and Liz Bolden was the senator that carried it in the Senate, and we got to the finish line. And HRAs in general have been really helped by this particular type of legislation. I know our organization will also help out with that, and I'm looking forward to doing more things to locally provide some of these resources as we look to the next sets of development in our area. But this will do will start us down the road of creating that local housing trust fund.
Motion to,
Mr. Chair, if I could just make a comment. I'm wondering if, based upon the provision of the funding mechanism and how that's organized, the trust fund, if IRRB could be approached in that regard. I say that in the context that our revolving loan for the county, that seed money came from IRRB. That has been a huge asset to our community. And I think if an appeal was made, that it could be even in the context of seed monies that on its earnings would annually contribute, so that we keep that in place as a funding mechanism which we can grow. But if it's designated and restricted in that regard, our investment opportunities would contribute to the growth of the fund.
You absolutely hit the nail on the head, and there are plenty of organizations that are not just regional, but maybe even across the entire nation that might have an interest. We have a really unique set of challenges and unique set of differences from a lot of the other communities that would set us in a more competitive realm, I believe, but we really can't do that until we create this local housing trust fund. Once it starts, then we can start reaching out to the IRRR our senator, our representative, our federal officials, and then also reach out to some of these national organizations that might be out there as well. The Minnesota Housing Partnership I'd be working with to create this, they're kind of the experts in this realm, but they also keep kind of a list of people that we could reach out to as well. So they'll be providing some resources, and I'm really hopeful that we can find maximum resources to our benefit in our communities.
And once you define purpose and intent and the structure, then you basically are looking for anybody and everybody has similar shared values and intent so that you can maximize your opportunities.
And I believe too, we'll also be looking at, we did receive about $90,000 to the Cascade Vacation Rentals. We might be earmarking that money specifically for this, in which case it'll go to those different priorities of redevelopment, rehabbing, and creating new development.
That would be a good news story too, to get others that might want to step in.
Absolutely.
Can I have a motion to pass Resolution 2511?
I move.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, 25-12.
Not the first time that we've talked about residential open space overlay district. And it surely isn't the last time people in Cook County will hear about it. And so if we pass this resolution 2512 today, what this will allow is for myself and Neva Maxwell to co-host a series of 5 organized meetings across the entire Cook County by a commissioner's district. And so you'll all be invited. You can either attend all of them or the ones you represent, or none of them if that's the case with your schedule. But I have a flyer that we've published and we're starting to send it out to people. We're also paying for a mailer that will go out to specific people in our districts across the county that have 15 acres or more and qualify for this. And so we've got a curated list through our land services and our GIS departments. And the mailing will go out, and it'll be bright chartreuse with black print, and people won't be able to miss it. It'll be in their mailbox soon. And then there's 5 meetings. You can go to any one of them you like. It doesn't have to be the one at the Shop Community Center. It doesn't have to be the one at the Schroeder Town Hall. If you'd like to come to the courthouse, that's an option too. People can really make the best judgment on what's best for their schedule. If there's a softball game that night, or volleyball, or whatever the case is, they can go at a different time. Also, Neva Maxwell really wants to be available, and so she'll take phone calls. Her information and details for contact are also on that flyer. It'll be going around in the community. I'm sure we'll be having a conversation with local media about this very shortly. What I really want to do in this process is, when we have meetings, I would like to really make sure that our realtors are involved, our local contractors are involved, and also our local bankers. Because these are great opportunities to not only just attend the meeting and figure out what that acronym means, ROSO, but also to figure out how that might benefit them, and maybe even see a banker there, or a realtor there, or a contractor about, hey, this maybe works for me. What do you think? How could we do this together? So I want this to be kind of a way for that partnership to start evolving early. And so, again, all the information, I'll forward you the email with that digitally. I know Commissioner Lamore asked about that, and I want to make sure that you all take a look at that too in your schedule. Hopefully I can see you all there too.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I've lived here my whole life. I've never heard of the Shop Community Center.
Oh, that is Fire Hall number 1 on the Gunflint Trail.
Officially.
I got the email from Neva yesterday.
Yep.
Did you all? Okay. I printed it off, hung it up at the Hoagland Post Office.
Thank you.
This afternoon.
Thank
It's
you.
Tuesday. So.
It is, yes.
Yeah.
Looking at my calendar, that's less than a week away.
I'm assuming that the commissioners are going to try to go to
Yeah.
their district meetings
Yeah.
or attend some of them.
We got
Okay.
that info.
All right, great.
Is there any news media coverage, not of the event, but in prior to, just for awareness?
We have previously discussed this for the strategic planning, like WTIP. I'm sure tomorrow when I have my time to go in and interview about what we did today, that'll come up and it'll probably be a local story pretty quickly.
It'd be good to get as much exposure as you can on the front end of it. I mean, it's a great opportunity. A lot of people, it's a matter of them knowing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mr. Sullivan?
And
to
in
make that
addition to
available.
the WTIP interview, they generally will put it on the community calendar, and you can also put it on the Boreal community calendar.
Yep, good point.
Move to approve.
Second?
Any further discussion?
One thing I would just like to point out for the people at home that are wondering, what the heck are they trying to do? Really, this is another opportunity for us to start looking at our housing crisis, what we have, and maybe reduce the red tape, speed up the permitting process, and get more homes online for our community and our needs across the entire county. And so, if anybody has any questions about that, Neva or myself would be happy to answer those questions. And we want to make ourselves available at these meetings so people can understand this, but also to help out with help out if they have, some area where they can put together a duplex or another single-family home to really help us get to that 600 units that we still need.
Yeah, and this is potentially a solution that is applicable throughout the county, which is, I think, part of the appeal.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
anyway, with that, all in favor of passage of 25-12? Vote aye.
Aye.
Hi. Fantastic.
Terrific. 25-13.
Another one. Hey, we're reading right down the list.
Like I said, I like the fact that we're explicitly following through on the strategic plan. This is great.
So this particular resolution, 25-13, what it will allow us to do is to really unlock the ability to have conversations in our community about specifically assisted living and elder care. I don't think that we're going to be going out and saying, what do you want someday? What do you want someday? I think we're going to be a lot more strategic than that about this process. But, I've already had some conversations with our local partners. Talked to Julie, Wilson Care Partners yesterday. I talked to Kimber over at the hospital. I've been talking to people here and there and everywhere, trying to schedule appointments, trying to collect data, trying to understand the issues a little bit more clearly. And, at the same time, I think a lot of people are in the community understand that at some point you age out of Grand Marais and have to move somewhere else because there's no assisted living. We have a great quality nursing home in town, but that isn't for everybody. And so sometimes people are looking for assisted living, and frankly, sometimes people are moving out to where the children live and the grandchildren are. And so there are plenty of opportunities for people to move out of Grand Marais, but I think that we have the ability through creating a continuum of care, starting at age 55 with independent living and going towards assisted living and ending up with a nursing home to have a continuum of care here in Grand Marais. I don't know specifically how to get there by myself or as a board, but I know that there are wonderful partners in our community and other people across the state that are paying attention to this issue that we are having and are starting to take notice. And so through the series of conversations we're about to have, through keeping you apprised of what's going on in these community conversations, to possibly getting to the point where we're looking for a request for proposals for a combination of either assisted living or elderly housing or both in that process, we're gonna have a conversation or two. We're gonna probably bring in Mary Somnus to facilitate again. She had expressed some interest at our board strategic planning meetings, and be strategic about the conversations we're gonna have, but get to a point where we can understand the full needs of the community now and into the future. And, some of those challenges we've eliminated. We've got workforce housing where we haven't had before. But some of those challenges remain with the affordability of that housing and how it matches up with some of the things that we need and some of the people we need at a place like an assisted living. I'm thinking of like home aides, or not home aides, but like just a regular nursing aide, and where do they fit in the spectrum of housing? And so as we get through this process, I really want to have some great quality conversations with people in this county. And so by allowing this to happen, we'll be getting to that point where we can have some town hall style meetings and get to that process.
Approximate timing in your mind?
If you're asking about the approximate timing for meetings,
No.
I would say that will definitely happen before next summer, between now and next summer. The challenge we have is how do we get things off the ground fast enough that we don't miss our snowbird population that will leave and come back, but also have the conversation with people that maybe have left and want to come back and have those conversations with us. And so I would say before summer, we should have completed those meetings. Now, if we're talking about an RFP process, it's probably a little bit further than that if it happens. Yeah. And I would say there's no guarantees that we get to the proposal process, but there's also a need that we can't ignore anymore, and hopefully we get to a point where we are matching that need or meeting that need.
Commissioner Gamble.
I appreciate you giving us the opportunity to provide input, but anytime you want us to button up, you can just let us know. I'm saying that humbly, but I've had 15 years of experience in managing the Section 8 housing. And many families come in, and because they are needing the assistance on the healthcare. When we first started, we had the emergency pools.
Sure.
And that meant if something happened, but the directive and HUD itself says you don't want to, because of the risk issue, we had to remove all of those things. But we would say, because we have care partners, because we have nurses and we have people who can, so I think in looking at this, it's talking to the different various partners.
Yeah.
And we take a mindset of just being realistic on what we can do and what we can't do in providing that service. As a suggestion in this research, I would say if you can find a county that is small or any entity that has pursued something like this and learn from their experience. Because when you're looking to sort of work out of the regular context of how you develop these things, we want to be innovative, we want to learn, we want to be resourceful. So we might be able to learn from somebody else's experience that informs, what we do.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that that's important, and I'll be reaching out through either NARO or Minnesota Housing Finance Agency or Minnesota Housing Partnership. There's a lot of good housing partners that we have at the state level that we can reach out to, and I'm sure there's some things we can learn from some of the other counties. A couple of things that come to mind that I know about Cook County that makes us a little bit of an outlier. We are the oldest county in the state of Minnesota of all 87 counties, which is really impressive.
Didn't know that.
Also, we are the 7th lowest when it comes to population amongst 87 counties. And so those two create some unique challenges that we can't ignore. And oh, by the way, we've got these problems, and we've had these problems for a while, but we're not getting to a resolution in any other way. We've previously had, I think, 3 different plans. One is down in that Temperance Trails area by Tofty, and then also 2 of them were here in the community of Grand Marais. And we've gotten so very close to just getting over the edge and having it happen, but it hasn't quite happened. And so, some things have changed. We've got, again, some of that workforce housing we didn't have before. There's still some challenges that haven't been eliminated quite yet, but we're getting there, I think. So be interesting to see what other counties have done.
Can I get a motion to approve Resolution 25-13?
Also move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. Moving right through them. 25-14.
Yeah, 2514 is another unique opportunity for housing in Cook County, and this creates a comprehensive plan to meet the needs of housing across the entire county. So I think, have somewhere here, maybe not. There it is, yes. So the county itself has a comprehensive plan with a bunch of different spokes. And one of them is water, one of land use, one of them is energy. Right there, one of the 7 different wheel spokes is housing. And the county itself doesn't have quite a housing comprehensive plan and part of their comprehensive plan overall, and we're going to help them get there. And so what I'd like to really do is, this is a proposal that we had in strategic planning to create a comprehensive housing plan. And then when you say a comprehensive housing plan, that's pretty nebulous. What does that mean? Well, what I'd really like to do is have some communications with people in different townships and communities, and really get to the crux of what is the housing challenge there now, and where do we want to go in the future. And I want to involve everybody that lives there and to be part of the process, for one, so they can be part of the plan itself. And I think that that's going to help us get to a point where we know where we're going. We have the ability to attract new developers. And we can also use things like GIS to point out where do the utilities now reside, where is the future of development for each of the areas that we're talking about, and get to a point where we actually got a blueprint for success in Cook County. Right now, it's kind of, if a developer comes up to me and says, Jeff, I want to build 30 units of housing, what do I do? Part of the process is going to be completing those forms that we had previously asked new developers to complete, but also it would be really nice if I could defer to a plan and say, look, 30 units of single-family housing, we've identified a location specific to that need. 30 units is going to be a little bit overwhelming for septic, so maybe we want to look somewhere closer to a city that has the infrastructure already in place, or if a person wants to build 16 units of development duplexes, where can I put that? There's the ability to do that, and we're meeting the needs across the entire spectrum of the county, all the way to the end of the Gunflint, east, west, and I think we're going to get there. This is going to help us get to that. So that's the conversation that we want to have now, so we can avoid challenges down the road and we can get developers to develop and get to those 600 units.
Jeff, what do you foresee as the time frame for this process?
I believe that this can be done in about a year. It will take some conversations. It'll take some going back and looking at some resource opportunities with maybe some grants to help facilitate some of the things we'll have to do, like generate GIS maps and that sort of thing. But I do believe that we can get there in a year.
Well, first, can we have a motion to approve 25-14?
So move.
I second.
Second. Any further discussion? Any questions?
One thing I would point out, in having some very brief conversations with Minnesota Housing Partnership, they've kind of articulated that we have a lot of the stuff already. It's just trying to stitch it together. We have a housing study. We have some of the things that we need already at our fingertips and ready to go. So it's going to be a matter of stitching some of the stuff together. We do know a little bit about where our utilities are, like the city of Grand Marais, for instance, and so it's interfacing with the city to make sure that they can give us the information and we can put it in a map. We do know where some of the septic stuff is. We know Schroeder, Tofty has a sanitary district, so that's infrastructure that we can add to the database as well. So there's some things that are already there, and we can start to kind of piggyback off of that information too.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor of passing 25-14?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Last of the strategic plan resolutions is 25-15. Jeff, you want to lead that off?
Yeah, so, when we're talking about housing itself, the price of housing in general just isn't going down without some sort of a subsidy somewhere in the process, whether it be local, county, state, federal. And in the process, too, we also have a real need for, looking at strategies for energy efficiencies. We really have a need for looking at opportunities to lower the cost of operating a home once it's built. And, when we're talking about public dollars that are flowing into projects, the board itself looked at the opportunity to say, look, if there's going to be some public funding, maybe there's additional conversation that you have to have about making these things more efficient. Maybe making these things a little bit more on the front end, lower cost of operation. And so I've already had a couple of conversations with some organizations that are local. I'd really like to involve them in this process. I'd also like to involve some of the organizations that do things at the statewide level, like MCEE, the Minnesota Center for Energy and Environment. I'd like to get them involved as well. And I think between the folks at the local level and some of the partners at the state level, what we could really do is maximize some of these opportunities as we start building the next phase of development, to look at how do we create some more of those efficiencies in the front end when they're being built, when it's the lowest cost option is when they're being constructed, versus later on when there's a higher cost for more labor and more materials to get to where we need to be. So I think it's really important, when we had that previous discussion about the energy in an envelope program, I also think of that as being part of this strategy as well. There's a couple of different programs that are available through the Minnesota Housing Finance Agency that would allow us to work with potentially a local bank or somebody at the statewide level, or possibly even the local housing finance trust or the local housing finance, I'm blanking right now, acronyms, to help support some of that down the road. And so I'd really like to get us to the point where we don't have a waiting list that's too long, and that we are also funding some of those developments into the future, so that way we can kind of reduce costs. There's an opportunity to partner with our local energy co-op, for instance, on some of these things as well. And I'm looking forward to having those conversations.
Do you see, is the product of this, well, first, do you see the conversations being ones that are conversations that you have with individual stakeholders? Or is it, do you foresee these as community conversation events? And then last question is, what's the end product of this? Is it a guide for, I'm just curious what the, just if you could just flesh out a little bit what the process of deliverables look like.
Yeah, well, first I'd like to have some conversations locally with the organizations and people who are really interested in this issue. I think it's really important. I think second of all, we can start looking at some of these statewide opportunities to create some more innovation in our county when it comes to constructing. And so maybe there are unique and different opportunities for us to look at septic or water conservation as part of that as well. That we can reduce the cost over time and not just mandate people only have to do it a certain way, maybe there's other alternatives as well. And so technology, there's a lot of cutting edge technology out there that can create some different opportunities for us. And then I think finally to get to a point where we're having engaging conversations with the developers about what we want in our county, what we want in our communities, what we want for the people who are going to end up moving in there.
Any further? Yeah. Mr. Campbell.
If I may, thank you. I think that, to your point, that when we have a discussion that is generically saying we need housing,
Well.
and so we have people come in and they build housing, but we need to be more inclusive in what our intent is. And years ago, I attended a conference in New York that was put on by the hospitality industry, and it had to do with, for financial institutions, how do you build your financial institutions with a population that is graying?
Sure.
And so, in other words, it's not just building, when you're going to build a financial institution, it's realizing that the demographics are changing, build it with that in mind. And so I think if we're specific relative to intention, that has been well researched and thought out, that we're inclusive of that, so we're not just saying build it.
Right.
It's built with these parameters which are intentional, which are reaching our objective, basically, to try to reduce on the long term the costs and create a healthier environment.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So I think it's simple common sense and arithmetic that energy efficiency is really, really good idea. I don't think anybody in the world disagrees with that. But every time something gets built, people say, yeah, that's true, but we just got to do it on the cheap, And then we build something that costs down the road multiples of what it would have been to do it in the first place. So we need to find that point and erase that objection. Otherwise, we're just going to be doomed to repeating the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunate because, the greatest gift we can give to the future is energy efficiency. It's just simple arithmetic, very easy to figure out. No magic to it, and most of it's pretty mundane. But when the time comes, inevitably it's like, well, that'd be really nice, but we're not going to do it because we have to do this cheap.
Yeah.
So I like the conversation about efficiency and operating cost. I think those are all very logical points. I'd also like to address occupant health and safety. When we consider that houses aren't just a Mr. Potato Head of a bunch of different pieces stuck together, they work as systems. And when they're designed as systems, they work better than when they're built, whether it's for cost or other reasons, and then added on to, renovated, reworked. It never works quite as effectively as if it was designed and built as a system from the start. And that it does absolutely affect the bottom line of operating cost robustness. That goes much further, though, in my mind, and it affects the health of the people who live in the house, which really, like, that's, to me, that's a extremely high threshold for, where you don't want to be cutting corners. So.
So I think it strikes.
Good point.
It strikes me that as far as the HRA's role goes, I mean, one is just education, so to provide more information about the available options to save energy, to improve the system's approach to design. And then it comes down to sort of carrots and sticks, and other incentives to reduce the upfront cost. Are there requirements that if you want funding from HRA, you have to do certain things? And so I think that, I don't think we have our arms fully around that. I think that I see this initiative as a way to just flag the importance of that and to develop a framework that makes sense.
And I think if you can explain it to them, that it is well-reasoned, all of the points, as opposed to being driven by an ideology or something that's new on the horizon that people are sort of gathering to, that we don't want to be unreasonable, because our intent is to build homes, but we want them to be built with this awareness. And we know this because we researched it.
Any further, this is a good conversation. Any further comments? I can't remember. I'll take a motion to pass 2515.
I move.
Right.
Is there a second? I will second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Okay, then we have one final resolution that was added to the agenda. I think we've got copies of that Jeff handed out. Jeff, do you want to introduce that?
Yeah, so 25-16 is before you. There's also a letter from John Petters that requested that we take a look at writing a IRRR grant application for the Björkberg project. Björkberg project has changed significantly from its original concept in 2024. And most recently in 2025, there was a conversation about something very similar to that. And now it's drastically changed into 6-unit development, but there still is a cost involving hooking up the utilities, particularly the water and sewer, in the community of Grand Marais. And he has asked us to look at up to $220,000 in grants for this opportunity. And so there's the letter and there is the resolution, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Jeff, are there competing applications for this funding? And just if we do this, does that preclude doing infrastructure development for another 6-unit development someplace?
Yeah, you might recall back in June, or actually it was in May, we passed a resolution authorizing me to write a grant for the Norris Skogan project, and I have successfully done so. It's been submitted as of July 30th of last month, and it's done, and it's there for them to consider. So that would be a competing application, perhaps. Now, they have about $6 million that they will issue each year through the Taconite Authority area, the TAA. Cook County is in that Taconite Authority area, and so we arguably should receive some of that money for our needs. And I believe there was a request last month at the EDA meeting for a different project for economic development. And so they're considering doing something like that as well for economic development. And so I would hope that we get some money, and I don't know, I can't guarantee, I can't say, hey, I'd prefer this over that. We just have to submit these applications and let the folks that are deciding these projects decide based on the merit of each of the applications.
So I'm not sure I'm ready to vote on this, having just seen it now for the first time. Would it cause a big delay if we tabled it till the next meeting?
Well, to answer that question, I know that their grant application was through July. I asked for a consideration for August, and so I don't know if getting into September will eliminate our opportunity for this or not. But it is something to consider.
I'm struggling a little bit to even understand it. It's, one place it says 220,000 for building 6 homes, and then the narrative says 12 homes. Minimum of 12 homes, and then he also mentions that they'll be sold only to be full-time residents of Cook County, which I think is illegal under fair housing law. I don't think you can stipulate that.
Yeah, that's
Selling it. They can do whatever, they can let it sit empty if they want to.
right, right.
So those make me reluctant to vote on it today until I really understand the project. I mean, for instance, if this is six $800,000 homes for high-end professionals from the cities to own and live in during the summer only,
Mhm.
I'm not sure it's an appropriate use of subsidies from the IRRR as compared to some of the other projects we could do.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's the case, I'm just saying I don't know.
Yeah. Yep.
So I don't want to rush into something that comes back later to be like, why did you subsidize this crazy thing for millionaires, so
Certainly.
I don't know.
I too would like to see what the plan is.
Okay.
Yeah, get more
More fleshed
information.
out.
Yeah.
Before we go ahead with this, but generally I'm in support, but I would definitely want to see the plans.
Okay. From the standpoint of the community conversations and that sort of thing, there were some unknowns at the city council level. They were more administrative in concern than it would be for the city council, but there are still some concerns about the overall development of the project and what that will look like. I can make sure that, we can set up a meeting with John to flesh out those questions and get the answers that you need to feel comfortable or not with the request. I could check in with the IRRR and see what they would be doing in September, if they'd still be taking applications or not. I just know right now it's through the end of August.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I would like to support this, and I think it's, I was in support of the original project, but I'm just not, I don't feel like I have enough information.
Okay.
And we could always schedule a special meeting if we got that information in a relatively short period of time.
And that's what I was going to suggest, if possibly we could set up a meeting and go from there. The thing about it is we need to have a resolution as part of the application process, approved by the organization, the HRA board, to be part of that IRRR application, where it's not even a valid request for funding.
And can we approve a resolution in a special meeting?
That would be a good question for, special meeting. I don't know that we've ever had a special meeting before for this HRA board, but maybe I'm wrong.
The board does that. I mean,
Sure.
if we have things that are timely and need to be done, we certainly do that. So I think as far as protocol, that's
Yeah,
acceptable.
legally you can do it.
Yeah. Yeah,
3
you
days
just-
advance notice.
You just note it and then do it. And
Post it.
Okay.
I would applaud the reluctance to move forward. Too often, as commissioners, we have organizations come in last minute and throw it down, and there's an emotional response as opposed to a fiscal response and a dutiful response. So I applaud the fact that we want to build integrity and process and still not use it as a mechanism not to move forward.
Sure. Okay. Well, then we could consider having, what I'll do is I'll consider, I'll check to see what the calendar looks like for all of us, and we'll get together with the developer, and we'll go from there. We can get it done this month, that might actually be helpful. I do need a little bit of time myself to provide that application to be constructed. There's a lot of requirements and that sort of thing. We have a lot of this stuff from previous requests to IRRR, but there's some updated stuff that the developer would have to get us as well. So.
Question I have is, would this be a housing grant, or would this be under Public Works?
I had asked that question, and Sean Husky over at IRRR said this would be more of a housing type of a
Okay,
request. So.
all right.
Yeah, that's
Thank you.
interesting because the product of this would ultimately be owned by the city. That's my understanding.
Yes.
The developer builds it and the city takes ownership.
That's right. Yep.
Good. Well, why don't we move on? Jeff, to your, if you could give a director's report and just try to keep.
Yeah, we'll keep it going here. The first one on the list of conversations for today is this Temperance Trails update. I wish I had a bigger update than I have right now, but things are developing. Things are we're still having conversations about things like density in the area. They've done some engineering and some looking at the soils and the moisture in that area of the county. And the goal would be to create a housing development with more density if they can. And so they're working with Neva Maxwell over at Land Services, and they're working with the engineers to see if they could increase it up to 22 units or so. That part of the conversation has been done. Also, I think the other part of the conversation is, frankly, we're right now out of our agreement, our developer's agreement with the current developer. And, we extended the last discussion until July. And, well, I look at my calendar, it's August. But by next month, I believe we're going to have a much different conversation about this project moving forward. And so I'm looking forward to giving you some more details as soon as I don't have anything concrete. I don't have anything in writing right now, but there might be something in the future for you.
Should we put a for sale sign up?
Well, I would argue that I need to drive down there and take down the sign that says coming fall of 2024. Because I look at my calendar and it's not fall of 2024 anymore.
You want a resolution to that?
But what I'd really like to do is I'd like to give you a concrete date here at the next meeting. So. And that's Temperance Trails for now. As far as the Heights goes, well, about maybe half hour ago, 5 more modules drove through town. Gary let me know that there's 5 modules on their way, and I let the radio station know so they could possibly get some video for a news story. Because I was here, of course, and couldn't take the video myself. Last week I was at a restaurant in town on Highway 61, and I saw them drive by. Quite a parade of to behold. State Patrol vehicle, 5 1.5 lane-sized pieces of housing driving down the road, wide load, the whole shebang. It was really interesting.
I think the more interesting video would be to see them going up Linscoop Road.
Yes.
Yes. Well, there's 36 of them in total, so we might get that opportunity. And keep in mind, they're traveling from Detroit Lakes to get here, so that's quite an impressive feat. And they're going to the old airport for now for storage. Every time I drive by the Heights, I'm always looking to see the first one pop up, but not quite yet. But they're still working on that site and getting it prepared. Gosh, these rainstorms that we've been having lately haven't helped, I guarantee you. But we're going to get to that point soon, so it's exciting. Also, we did receive the $630,000 grant from the IRRR, and that was an invoice that we received from the Heights developer. And so we submitted it, received it, and then also triggered the $200,000 in ARPA funds that we set aside as a match to that $630,000. And so that money has gone through to the developer and is taken care of now. So if anybody's paying attention to the details, a lot of money has been sent out of our bank account in the last couple of weeks. But they are going to where they need to go. The next one is the Energy and Envelope Grant Program. I just wanted to put that out there again to say we're really helping people in our community that do need it. You can see the testimony there. We've got a lot more testimony. And I really do believe, and when we had our strategic planning, I discussed an opportunity that we might be able to partner with a lender, whether it be a statewide organization that provides the lending or hopefully a local lender that I'm about to have some conversations with. There's Minnesota Housing Finance Agency has some different financing options for what they call the Energy Plus program. And that would allow 3.5% lending up to $30,000 for a lot of the things that we would provide at the program that we've created as well. And so The money would, I think, provide some real opportunities for our community in terms of rehabbing homes and keeping the housing stock healthy where we need it to be, but also to really spur some of that stuff and also get some more contractors interested in and involved in our community. In the past, I've sent some money for the Energy and Environment Program to Superior, Wisconsin for a contractor, but it would be really nice if we started looking at mechanisms in place, perhaps, to entice some younger folks to get into the trades. We need plumbers, we need electricians, we need roofers, we need all of that stuff, and we have some of it, but we could use more of it. And so by doing these projects and having that money to infuse into our local economy, we're also providing some opportunity for our future generations to get involved in this stuff. They have the jobs, they'll do the jobs, I believe. And so whether it be construction projects or the smaller things, some real good opportunities. Strategic planning conversations, boy, we've talked about that enough. I think we're good. Rosso meetings, I just wanted to point out, there's the flyer. We're going to go and have some great conversations across our county for the next 6 weeks or so. By the end of September, we'll have completed all of those conversations. And then that's all I have for today.
Great. Committee reports, we had the Finance Committee had a brief meeting right before this meeting. Couple things just in reviewing the financials. One little nit on the financials that are included in the packet is that there's a project development expense of $200,000 listed, and that's been recategorized. That's the ARPA funds that were paid to the Heights project, but otherwise everything's pretty straightforward. We have talked in the past about a project dashboard, basically a resource for the board to just remember, these are the projects, these are the ways in which the HRA has supported these funds. Jason had drafted a document like that that's useful, it's a spreadsheet that summarizes that. Jeff has updated that. The plan is to then migrate that to a shareable platform like Google Sheets, with this group having access to it. So if anyone that wants to look at it, just to remind yourself, what that project was, what funds to be contributed, that'll be readily apparent. And I think that was it on the financial financial committee. Any commissioner items?
I have a brief item. Through Jeff, I got in touch with a gentleman named Aaron Jensen, and he just built a home in the Heritage at a golf course in Lutzen that he built with the intention of making it a short-term rental and an income generator for himself. And he reached out to us. I don't know if he heard about it on the news maybe, but he reached out to us wanting to contribute to the HRA portion of his rentals. Cool. His plan is to donate 5% of the direct bookings that he gets. Wow. So he's listing it through VRBO and Airbnb, and if somebody books through those, we don't get anything. Mm-hmm. But he's also setting up a system where they can book directly. Mm-hmm. And he said typically that happens over time because people can avoid the fee by booking directly. Yeah. So if they like staying there and they stay there repeatedly, they'll make direct bookings. So he said over time that'll grow. And he's pledging to donate 5% of that. He said in the first year he'll make a personal donation to kind of make up for the fact that it's going to be a really small amount of money. He indicated so. And we told him where to send the check. And he's also interested in building another one. Mm-hmm. He mentioned that he's interested in the concept of building a short-term rental and then building a ADU on the same property that would be long-term rental. Mm-hmm. And that the income from the short-term rental would finance over time the long-term rental. And so that's a concept he's exploring. Yeah, and interesting. Seems like a bright guy. And mm-hmm. Spent a lot of time up here vacationing and just wants to be involved. And mm-hmm. So I didn't do anything to discourage him. In fact, I encouraged him. And I saw the house, actually, if you go up the Ski Hill Road, when you get into the Heritage area, it's the first driveway on the left. There's a new light gray house there. That's the one. Nice. Wonderful. So, that's all I have.
Commissioner Campbell?
I would just mention, I don't know if you're receiving these or not, but we're getting, as commissioners, we're getting a number of notices on meetings relative, workshops, whatever, relative to housing. And we've been getting a lot of them. And so whether or not you're seeing those, Jeff, or not,
I've seen a couple of requests for bids, but I haven't seen any workshops.
yeah, I
We can
might
forward
forward
them to
them.
you.
Yeah,
Okay,
I think we'll
please do.
forward them, because I think it'd be good information, but I've been just seeing, my goodness, there's a lot of them coming.
Okay,
There was one today, and, but there's multiple.
okay, great. I'll take a look.
I had one item, I've received, I've gotten several comments to people concerned about the aesthetics of the Gunflint View development, and I don't know what what the HRA's role in is that, but you know, someone's put up like a skeleton on one of the trellises and some Christmas lights, and there's, you know, the vegetation, the grass that they planted has never taken root, so, you know, as you're driving up the trail, as a sort of symbol of the HRA, I'm concerned that it's potentially tarnishing the brand of the HRA. So I don't know what leverage we have or what the recommended next steps would be, but I've had several different folks approach me and they say, yeah, no, what to do about that?
Now, we have in our policy, and I addressed that a month ago with an individual, and that we can't have anything we can't post anything in windows or put anything out on the yard or whatever. I would look at what the housing agreement is that they sign with their lease, and because some people just, they're not familiar with it. But if you politely just say our policy is out of respect or whatever, that addresses the posting issue. It doesn't address the grass issue. But
Yeah, I can definitely look into that and look into it.
Yeah, good. I wanted to share it. It'd come up a few times.
Okay.
The context of the grass, there's still an issue, I think, with the county, with the highway engineer about drainage. I don't understand what it is, but I've heard him say he has an issue with the drainage.
Okay.
So they may be planning to do something with that. At least you could check with Robbie and see if that's
Yeah.
the case, and maybe that's where the grass is.
So what I understand, that is not the issue with the grass up at the top, but the drainage issue was corrected. It was that the shoulder was at an angle where all the water was draining off into the road, and it was not draining into the culvert, and that has been repaired.
Okay. I didn't notice
That was an
any
issue
change.
in the wintertime when it was becoming springtime.
Right.
I remember that.
That's when it
Yeah.
showed its,
And obviously, they're not going to grow grass now.
Right,
So-
right.
People need to be patient with that, I think.
Okay.
that's in your job description, Jeff. You have to go dig a ditch.
Wouldn't be the first one. We'll do it.
That's all the business we have. Motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye. All right.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Sorry for being late. I was on the boat and then, of course, went to City Hall.